Hey, you're listening to the wrong podcast. Topics today include fur babies, curse words, and pronouns.
Wrong! What's wrong with you? What's wrong with y'all?
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you people? Wrong! You do have to tolerate it. It's my show.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm here to talk about politics, culture, religion, sports, and anything else you're not allowed to talk about in polite company. Issue number 1, Ukraine. Okay, I really want to talk about Ukraine. I bet you really want me to talk about Ukraine. And here's the deal. This podcast is not a news podcast. And I really try to avoid hot takes. Hot cakes? Hot cakes are delicious. Hot takes? Not so much. Right now, things are happening so quickly in Ukraine, I don't have a good way to talk about it that isn't going to just come off like a hot take. And there's lots of them out there, and I want to have hot takes about the hot takes. But I'm choosing some wisdom right now to not talk about it, but I will talk about it. And to be sure, I have opinions. But Joy Behar, God bless the view, she gave me a further reason to avoid talking about it. One of her first responses was, "This is awful. I'm not going to be able to go on my vacation to Italy this year." Wow.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong.
Issue number 2, the F word. Okay, my daughter is 6 years old. She's a Daisy Scout, and it is cookie selling time. You probably know that. You're probably being inundated every time you go to the grocery store with Girl Scouts trying to sell you delicious pre-baked goods. And I'll give you a taste of what my daughter is like selling cookies for the first time.
So these are the peanut butter patties. We just tried them and they taste so good. They're so peanut buttery and chocolatey, and you have to try them. And if you want to buy them, they're only $5. Bye.
Now, the lovely Wendy will tell you that the cookie sales are really mostly work for her, not for our daughter. And, I'm pitching in where I can, but the lovely Wendy is taking charge of it, and I am grateful for that. And they told us that, the troop makes the cookie boxes cost $5 a box. And they told us the Girl Scout troop makes 65 cents per sale. So, let's just guess $2.50 for the bakery that makes all the cookies. And then the rest is divided up between the national organization and the county organization and the troop. And when I heard it was 65 cents a box, I was like, well, and you have to sell 55 boxes in order to get the patch. And if you know anything about scouting, it's all about the patches. Of course she wants the patch. And I'm like, oh gosh, we're going to get stuck with 55 boxes of cookies. And her troop's only making 65 cents. Can we just write a check for, whatever, $35 to the troop and save ourselves all the hassle and not have a gigantic stack of cookies in our house? And of course, no, you can't do that. And I get it. I want money to go to the national organization. They're good. They're developing the curriculum and helping other girls get into Girl Scouts. I get it. I want my money to go to them too. But wow, can we just avoid all of this? Well, it turns out our daughter has done great. She's sold 55 boxes easily, and she's going to sell triple that. And so hooray, we're not going to be stuck with cookies. But this all reminded me of my reaction when her older sister started school. They were in preschool, in fact. And there was this fundraising thing. It just made me angry. And I wrote up this thing that I couldn't do anything with my anger other than write up this thing for my friends and email it to them. That's what Wendy said, and so that's what I did. But today I'm going to share with you something I call a fundraising new F word. I have a new F word, and it is fundraiser, specifically school fundraiser. Last week, my wife and I picked up the girls from preschool, and there is a box of candy bars with our name on it. Attached to the fundraising box of candy bars is a fundraising letter. The letter basically says, return an envelope with $50, do not return the candy bars. So I've just been handed a fundraising bill for $50 for a bunch of fundraising mediocre candy bars that I didn't fundraising ask for, and it pisses me off. There is no fundraising way I'm going to be sending my preschoolers out to sell fundraising candy bars. And there is no way I'm going to take my time to try to sell these fundraising candy bars. So my only option is to write a fundraising check out for $50 and return it with a fundraising smile on my face. Now let's make it clear. This is a private preschool. They set their own rates. If they needed an extra $50 per student, they could easily ask for it at the beginning of the year. In fact, I would much prefer that they did. The entire $50 would go to the school, and I wouldn't be saddled with trying to sell fundraising crap on the street. So, as Wendy and I discuss what to do, I suggest we just return the whole box and pretend we never saw it. Apparently, that's a no-go. Unless I want my children to be treated like fundraising cattle by their teachers, we have to come back with the fundraising money. The only way I can look at this in any sort of positive light is to consider that the school just asked me for a fundraising mandatory donation, and as a sign of fundraising appreciation, they are giving me a fundraising box of candy bars. What really chaps my hide is that the school probably doesn't need the fundraising money. Like I said, if they needed more money, they could raise the tuition. I think this starts and ends with the fundraising candy bar company. They go to the school and say, how would you like to bring in some more money? Just have your kids sell this crap we call chocolate. It won't be any work on your end. And the administrators say, hey, that's a good idea. Not realizing that all of their parents are now fundraised with a bunch of fundraising crappy candy. Remember, I want to know what's wrong with you.
What's wrong with you?
If you'd like to submit a question, topic, or tell me how I was wrong, you can email me at listen@thewrongpodcast.com or submit a comment at my website, thewrongpodcast.com. And help me spread the wrong message. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends. Now it's time for my favorite part of the show. I was wrong.
I was wrong. I was wrong.
Listener Alicia writes in, and she has a couple of things to get off her chest, and I think she wants me to join in. She says, why isn't it illegal for dogs to be in the front seat of a car while the car is in motion, especially when the dog is crawling or sitting in the driver's lap? Talk about distracted driving. And how has pet ownership evolved over the years in our society that now we have pet parents, not pet owners? Since when have dogs become equivalent to children in value? Dog mom, grand dog mom. People get more upset about animal abuse and dog fights than they do about child abuse or other heinous human rights abuses. People care more about a puppy that has died than they do about a miscarriage or abortion. Well, Alicia, that is a hot take. Fire. You were looking to stoke the flames of animosity with that, because people do not like to be contradicted about their fur babies. And let me just say first that pets are good. You know, we have this human instinct to nurture, and that is a God-given gift, and we should develop it and promote it. We want people to be nurturing human beings, and pets help us do that. And in addition, the United States is going the way of Japan. Marriage, sex, and children are all on the decline. All three. And there's no signs of that letting up. And we can just expect that people are going to want to fill that void. And pets are a great way to fill that void if you choose to not have children or you can't have children for whatever reason. Please get a pet. Great. I love it. That being said, I think Alicia is on to some things. First, let me say that as an adoptive parent, I hate it when people equate buying a dog to adoption. Like, adopt a pet, expand your family. By all means, yes, take in pets. Let's not call it adoption. They are not full members of your family. They don't get written into the will unless you're really, really rich and eccentric. They don't get an equal share with your kids if you happen to pass on, or they shouldn't. If they do, there's something wrong with you. But to back up, let me tell you the worst thing that I've ever seen in my life, like at least in the top 5 of worst things I've ever seen. The lovely Wendy, she used to be a missionary in Peru, and I visited her a couple times. One time was on a missions trip to help her work there. And we were visiting a rural village. It's a squatter village. People, kind of put together their houses with whatever wood and plywood and tin they can get. And they just, they set up a little town wherever they can. And we were on our way out there. And on the way, I saw this starving dog. And a group of vultures had surrounded it. And they were starting to peck the dog to death. And the dog was too hungry and too tired to defend itself. And, it was just like, nobody wants to see that. Like, that poor dog. And there's nothing I can do. Like, I don't live there. I could go shoo the vultures away, but they'll come right back. I can't nurse this dog back to health because I don't live there. I just had to accept that this dog was about to become lunch for a pack of vultures. And people would often, Americans and Canadians that would visit Wendy and these communities, they would often say, man, I would like to come back on a mission trip just to take care of the dogs around here. There's so many stray dogs and they're in such poor health. Somebody needs to do something about the dogs. And that was Wendy's opportunity to always say, you know what? You actually are doing something about the dogs. You are helping a program here that is helping people out of poverty. And when people rise out of poverty, they treat their pets better. They treat their dogs. They feed their dogs. They make sure their dogs get what they want. Right now, these people are struggling to make sure their kids get what they need. And they don't have the income or the wealth to make, to spay and neuter these dogs or to feed them as well as they should, much less to call them fur babies and to make sure that they get organic treats. And the whole fur baby and pet parent phenomenon, it is a sign of our decadence. We live in a decadent society. We have wealth to spare, and it is good. We want people to have wealth. We want people to have what we have. We want people to treat their animals well. But the money that is being spent on animals is obscene and absurd. And part of it is this idea that, you are a parent. Like, yes, you are this dog's mommy and your spouse is the dog's daddy. And your kids are brothers and sisters with this animal. And that is a distortion of who humans are and what animals are and the priority we should give them. That's all. That's what it comes down to. And you need to recognize that this idea of pet parents, that's promoted by the pet stores, by Petco, by PetSmart. They want you to think of yourself as a parent to these animals so that you spend more money in their stores. And, treat your animals well. Issue number 3. Personal pronouns. Well, since I've already, dove headlong into controversy with the fur baby thing, I might as well follow it up with personal pronouns. And I had somebody ask me personally, why do you go out of your way on your podcast to use the term Latter-day Saint rather than Mormon? And why do you think it was important for people to call him Muhammad Ali rather than Cassius Clay? But you don't want to use the preferred pronouns for transgender people. That's an excellent question, and I'd love to unpack it because I want to clarify some things about my stance on all of those issues. And to be clear, I see this as a conflict between truth and courtesy. And I think I have an obligation to both treat people well and to tell the truth. You know, categories are important. And sometimes categories are wrong. That's the case in racism. A category has been set up that is invalid. It doesn't mean anything, but people are convinced that this category is important and needs to be respected, and they are wrong. But sometimes categories are real and they should be respected and they should be adhered to. And I get it. If you are on the wrong side of that category distinction, it can be frustrating and hurtful. Absolutely. I get the impulse to destroy all labels and categories if you are on the wrong side of them. I get it. But they exist because they're beneficial. They help us. If you label something as candy and it's actually poison, somebody will die. And that's an extreme example. But that's where the idea of categories comes from. We need to label things correctly. So when speaking to Latter-day Saints, I am happy to avoid using the word Mormon. Their current prophet has said that it is offensive to use that word. It's a victory for Satan to use that word. And they would prefer, because of that, that other people not use that term. Specifically, not to refer to them as the Mormon Church. That's not the name of their church. And I'm willing to go along with that. They want to choose their name, fine. I'll use their name. But I am not willing to say that Joseph Smith is a true prophet. And that's also something that they would like me to say. They would like me to use the term Latter-day Saint, and they would like me to say that they are the only true church in the world, and they would like me to say that Joseph Smith is a true prophet of God. And I can only go along with the first one. I can't go along with the other two, even though they would really like me to, even though it would be a courtesy for them. It's something they believe to be true. I don't believe that the LDS Church teaches Orthodox Christianity. And I don't believe the LDS Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, teaches a saving grace. And it would be wrong for me to say that they were Orthodox and that they teach the salvation of Jesus. I don't think that's true, and I can't say it. But I also don't go out of my way to throw this in the face of my Latter-day Saint friends. When I'm talking to them, I meet some missionaries, I don't consistently say the so-called prophet, Joseph Smith, and I don't say, well, yeah, I know that you belong to this false and abominable church. I don't use those terms because that would be rude. And, there are some relationships I have with some LDS where I do say, hey, Joseph Smith is a false prophet. And they know that that's my stance, and we've worked out something in a relationship where they don't feel offended by that. Even though they disagree with me strongly, they're able to hear me say those kinds of things to them. But that's not how I lead with all Latter-day Saints. Only when I've established a deeper relationship do I speak that frankly to people. So Jordan Peterson, super controversial figure, Canadian, if you can stand it, you can listen to his accent. If not, go read his book. He came out with a book, 10 Rules for Life, I think, or 10 Rules. And, when when I quote Jordan Peterson and you disagree with something he said, great. I'm not debating that thing you disagree with right now. I'm only agreeing with this thing right now. He says in his 10 rules that one of them is tell the truth, or at least don't lie. And he expands on this. Well, he's eloquent about it. I agree with him. We should tell the truth. And if we can't tell the truth, at least avoid lying. Don't say something that you know to be untrue. That's actually what got the Soviet Union in trouble. People kept repeating things that they knew to be lies. And eventually that had disastrous implications for them. I think the same is true for us. And if we can't tell the truth, if we can't say what we believe to be true, and in fact, if we are forced to say things that we believe are false as if they are true, that actually rots our soul. Like it distorts our character. It keeps us from saying other true things. It wears us down. And eventually we give up on the concept of truth entirely. So I think at some point we do need to draw a line to say, hey, this is something I believe to be true, and I'm not going to say the opposite of that. So in English, gender, and in the English language, I should say, gender and sex are interconnected. And it doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to have a gendered language. Spanish is much more gendered than English is. We could have a completely gender neutral language, and this issue wouldn't be present for us. But as it goes, the way English is developed, sex and gender are interconnected. When I say a biological male is a she, I am expressing a contradiction about biological sex. And sex is a real category in human understanding. We are all humans, but there are different kinds of humans, specifically male and female. And yes, there are some ambiguous cases, but even in those cases, you can know if someone is male or female. We have the scientific tools now to discern those things. So I don't think that we don't need to replace sex with gender as a category. I think sex is the correct category, and if anything, we need to diminish gender if there's complications with it. We need to emphasize sex rather than gender. And so I have both strong scientific and religious beliefs that emphasize I need to respect the categories of sex. Scientific and religious. They're both important to me. I believe they're both true. I believe in the case of Christianity, they support one another. I need to respect both of those beliefs. I can't violate that when I'm talking about things that I believe to be true. So if you're not going to lie, if you're saying you should always tell the truth, or at least don't lie, what about Santa Claus? Why are you telling your daughter about Santa Claus? Why are you emphasizing that? Why aren't you correcting her immediately to let her know that Santa Claus isn't true? And the reason is, for the same reason I let her pretend she's a puppy sometimes. It's a game. Kids at a certain age have fantasy thinking, and it's fun for them. And it's good and appropriate to engage in that fantasy thinking to some degree. Santa Claus is a legend. It fills her idea and her imagination with wonder. And I want her to enjoy that. For the same reason I want her to enjoy running around like a puppy and barking. It's fine. It's fun. It's imaginative. At some point, she needs to give up on it. And I will encourage her to at the appropriate age if she has not on her own. You know, when she's 14, I don't want her running around pretending she's a kitty cat anymore. But when she's 6, great, have at it, have fun. If you want to say that, hey, you know that sex is a real category, but this person, they need you to go along with the idea that it's not. Well, that's kind of infantilizing, isn't it? It's saying they're really immature and it will hurt their feelings. It will ruin the fun for them if you tell them otherwise. So just go along with it, just like you do with Santa Claus. And We're talking about adults here. I'm sorry. I don't think that that's actually respectful. If that's your view of it and your view of them, I think you actually have a very low opinion of people with gender dysphoria. So I think that I should respect them, which means that I should avoid using pronouns that offend them. But I also should avoid using pronouns that offend me and my understanding of truth. So if somebody's asking me to use a misgendered pronoun, I think the best solution is for me to not use he or she, but to use their name instead, as much as I can. And absent that, I think the word they is a readily available substitute. And, you might say, well, they're not multiple people, Tim. They're a single person. You shouldn't say they. And that's the thing. English is evolving. And as it's evolved in the 20th century, we use they quite frequently when we're not sure of somebody's gender, when we're not sure who we're talking about. Even though we're talking about an individual, the word they has come to mean an individual person in some instances. If you look in the grammar and, the grammar books, there is no official English guardian. There's nobody saying how English can and should be used. But the ones that are developed to say, hey, this is what's proper, this is what's expected, they now say that they is an okay word to use in some instances when referring to an individual. Now, there's also this, there are some people who say, hey, my pronouns are like sie, their, they, or something like that. And actually, I think that this is kind of a good solution. It's a gender neutral solution. I don't know what the gender of sie is. And I think the point is that it's absent of gender. And, these people, they're introducing something new into English. And it seems totally strange and totally awkward. What's the deal? He and she have been working for everybody. Why do you have to introduce something new? And they're saying, hey, he and she don't work for me. So I want to give you a gender neutral option. Or maybe it's not gender neutral. Maybe they've invented a new gender. I don't know what they mean, but it seems gender neutral to me. And this solution actually seems like a good compromise. It doesn't violate any of my priors about sex. It totally changes how I view English and how English should be used. But English is a construct. It's a language that's evolving, and it will continue to evolve. So I can actually get with that much more readily than I can with saying that a biological male is a she. And, maybe the solution moving forward is that he is what will be used for everyone. He, his, that's, we removed gender from it entirely. That might be the solution in the future, but I don't know. But I could be wrong. If you think I am, let me know. And let me know why. I had fun, and I hope you did too. Bye-bye.